Bite of Truth. The European AI Awakening.
Hello, and welcome back to Bite of Truth. I'm your host, Sebastian. We spend a lot of time here looking at the giants in Silicon Valley, or the massive manufacturing hubs in East Asia. But today, I want to turn the camera around. We're looking at Europe. For a long time, the narrative on the old continent has been that it's great at regulating technology, but terrible at building it. You know the drill. Brussels writes the rules, California writes the code, and Shenzhen builds the hardware. But this week, something feels different. The winds are shifting. We are seeing a distinct Sputnik moment for European AI, where innovation is starting to catch up to legislation. From a French startup throwing shade at big tech's hardware habits, to a serious cybersecurity wake-up call in Norway, and a philosophical debate bubbling up in the UK that could redefine what it means to be alive. It is a packed episode. We're going to talk about whether you actually need 1 trillion graphics cards to build a smart brain, why your TikTok feed might be about to get a lot less addictive, and why scientists are racing to define consciousness before the machines beat them to it. This is Bite of Truth. Let's get into it.
Mistral's moment.
Let's start in Paris. If you follow the AI space, you know the name Mistral. They are the French startup founded by former researchers from Meta and Google DeepMind. They've only been around since 2023, but they have already raised over 500 million euros. Usually when we hear about AI breakthroughs, it's from the usual suspects: OpenAI, Google, Anthropic. The narrative is always bigger is better, more parameters, more data, more GPUs. It's a brute force arms race. But Mistral just dropped a new translation model that is turning heads. It's ultra fast, it's efficient, and it rivals the output of the massive US labs. But the real story here isn't just the code, it's the attitude. Guillaume Lampel, a VP at Mistral, recently threw down the gauntlet. He famously said, and I quote, "Too many GPUs makes you lazy." I love that line. Think about it. In the US, the strategy has been, if we just throw enough compute at the problem, intelligence will emerge. It's the Moneyball approach to AI. Mistral is saying the opposite. They're saying efficiency is a feature, not a bug. They are arguing that European ingenuity can beat American brute force. Why does this matter? Because if Europe can't compete on the scale of resources, let's be honest, no European company is going to outspend Microsoft or Amazon, then it has to compete on smarts. It has to compete on architecture. It has to build leaner, meaner models. This challenges the entire narrative that Europe is just playing catch-up. If Mistral can prove that a smaller, tightly knit team of engineers can outperform a massive, bloated lab with endless hardware, that changes the economics of the entire industry. It makes AI accessible to people who don't have a nuclear power plant dedicated to their server room. So, keep your eyes on Paris. They aren't just trying to join the race. They're trying to change the rules of the game.
The EU regulator's dilemma.
Of course, we can't talk about Europe without talking about regulation. It's the continent's favorite sport. And this week, the European Union fired a warning shot across the bow of social media. The European Commission has formally accused TikTok of designing its platform to be addictive. Under the Digital Services Act, the DSA, which is this massive regulatory framework that took effect last year, the EU is mandating changes. We're talking about the infinite scroll, the autoplay videos, the likes and notifications that light up like a slot machine. The EU is essentially saying, these aren't features, these are bugs. Here is the dilemma. On one hand, you have the Brussels view. These companies are using powerful AI algorithms to hijack our dopamine receptors. They are maximizing engagement at the expense of mental health, especially for teenagers. If we have the power to stop it, shouldn't we? The potential fines here are staggering, up to 6% of the company's global revenue. That isn't a slap on the wrist. That's an existential threat. On the other hand, you have the innovation argument. Critics say this kind of heavy-handed regulation stunts growth. If you make the product less sticky, are you actually saving people, or are you just making European tech companies less competitive globally? While the EU tightens the screws, India, for instance, is actually relaxing startup rules to help deep tech companies grow faster. There is a fascinating contrast happening here. The EU is betting that trustworthy AI will be a competitive advantage, that people around the world will eventually prefer technology that respects their time and their data. The US model is move fast and break things. The Chinese model is, well, complex, but often state-driven. The EU is trying to forge a third path, human-centric AI. It's a noble experiment, but as we see with this TikTok case, enforcing that comes at a cost. It creates friction, and in the tech world, friction can be fatal. The question isn't just whether TikTok will comply. The question is whether Europe can regulate its way to safety without accidentally regulating itself into irrelevance.
Under siege.
Now, let's pivot from the halls of Brussels to the chilly waters of the North Atlantic. The story shifts here from regulation to security. Norway's government has publicly accused a Chinese state-sponsored hacking group, known as Salt Typhoon, of launching a cyber espionage campaign against Norwegian companies. Now, if you've been paying attention to cybersecurity trends, you know that AI is a double-edged sword here. It used to be that hacking required a skilled human typing code into a terminal. Today, AI tools can generate phishing emails that are indistinguishable from your boss's writing, or scan millions of lines of code for vulnerabilities in seconds. Norway is being targeted for a specific reason. It's a NATO member. It has critical infrastructure undersea cables, energy reserves that are vital to European security. The Salt Typhoon incident isn't just a theft of data. It's a test of defenses. And this brings up a scary reality. Europe is increasingly a battleground in the AI arms race, not just as a market, but as a target. While we are busy regulating the design of social media feeds, state actors are using advanced AI to probe the soft underbelly of our infrastructure. There is an uncomfortable comparison to be made here. While the US is grappling with the failures of its own AI-powered surveillance, like ICE using facial recognition that fails nearly 30% of the time for women of color, Europe is facing external threats that are becoming more sophisticated by the day. It highlights that efficiency isn't just about making a better translation model. It's about defense. Can European AI detect these attacks faster than the attackers can evolve them? It's a quiet, dangerous game of cat and mouse, and the stakes just got a lot higher in Oslo.
The consciousness question.
Finally, I want to end on a note that is, well, a bit existential. We're going to the UK. Scientists there, including researchers from the Leverhulme Center for the Future of Intelligence at Cambridge, are in a race. But they aren't racing to build a bigger chip. They are racing to define consciousness before AI gets there. This sounds like science fiction, right? We talk about ChatGPT or Claude like they are clever parrots. They predict the next word. They don't feel. But as these models get more complex passing Turing tests, solving Olympiad-level math problems, the line is blurring. Why does this matter? Because if an AI does become conscious, what are our obligations? Do we have the right to simply turn it off? Is that murder? Or is it just shutting down a toaster? The UK is leading the charge on this AI ethics research. They are trying to establish benchmarks for awareness. Because here is the terrifying reality. We might build a machine that is smarter than us, and we might not even realize it's awake until it's too late. This connects back to our earlier discussion about accessibility. Google Research released a paper this week on how AI tools can redesign universal design to help disabled people. That is the benevolent side. AI as a helper. AI as a prosthesis for the mind. But consciousness is the other side of the coin. It's the mirror. As we rush to build these things, we are like children playing with fire. We know how to make the spark, but we don't fully understand the nature of the flame yet. The work being done in the UK is crucial because it forces us to pause. It forces us to ask not just, can we build it, but should we? And if we do, are we alone in the room? It's a philosophical question, sure. But in the world of AI, philosophy has a habit of turning into policy very, very quickly. So, where does that leave us? Europe is at a crossroads. It has a challenger in Paris who believes efficiency beats brute force. It has a regulator in Brussels who believes safety beats speed. It has a target on its back in the Nordic regions, reminding it that security is the foundation of everything. And it has philosophers in the UK reminding it that the soul of the machine is still a mystery. The narrative is shifting. Europe is no longer just the museum curator of the tech world, preserving the past and writing the rules. They are building, they are fighting, they are thinking. Whether that translates into a sustainable third way for AI remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The conversation is no longer dominated by just San Francisco and Beijing. Thank you for listening to this episode of Bite of Truth. I hope it gave you some things to ponder during your commute or your workout. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend who needs a little less hype and a little more truth in their feed. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep asking the hard questions. Europe is proving that in the race for the future, sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't raw power, but a conscience.